Hey guys, Pete here. So are you seeing it yet? I told you this was coming. The prices are starting to pull back. The big competitors are starting to drop their price. People are pulling back on replacements. They're electing to repair. They're electing to wait. There's a lot of stuff going on, and we need to be on the attack right now. So there's three key things that we need to keep in mind if we're going to be successful. Actually, before that, there's a couple of things that we need to address. Number one, you need to be getting lean right now. You need to be getting lean. And you need to understand your financials, your numbers. And if you, by the way, are using the labor and parts markup based on prior year's performances, you're going to be lost. You're going to be off. If you're using the divisor method for your replacements, you're going to lack the clarity in order to adjust your pricing on the fly and get those sales. Guys, proper pricing is based on your costs, your overhead, things like this, as well as the units sold. And you have to be able to predict that with real accuracy. Okay, so let's look at, this is one of the things that we were doing when we created this price system, which is, by the way, the whole intent here was to keep it simple, but there's a lot of moving parts. So we did our best, and I think it really is simple. I think it's a home run, and those who went through the pilot program had nothing but wonderful things to say, and we've improved that. So this is one of the things that we started to do. We were looking at setting up some basically goals, internal goals, or quotas, if you will. And we start with a basic overhead, and then we have to adjust for the owner if you're an owner operator. So everything starts with the overhead, but then we started getting into how many units are we going to move? How many equipment sales are we going to do? How many service calls are we going to do? That's the only way you're going to know how to price properly, is to be able to project these forward. And we had guys that literally, they weren't even getting 20 calls a month, right? And so we have to adjust for these and see what we need to be doing in order to get there. So this was a lot of work. So what I did was we came up with this one over here, and essentially you fill in, you smaller companies, you bigger companies should have this information, so it'll be a lot easier for you. But on the smaller companies, you fill out this basic information. We separate the field labor and taxes, workers' comp, and stuff like that. And you fill these numbers in, okay? Then we come over here and we fill out these yellow sections, and everything is calculated for you. That's the idea, is we're trying to make this as simple as possible. Now, as these things change, all your pricing has to change, and you have to be able to do it instantly. And so in the pricing example, so this is a mature company. You guys, by mature company, what I mean is you have dedicated full-time installers that they're installing every day. You have dedicated service techs that are running service calls, running flat rate every day. So this is an installation. So if we had a piece of equipment, for example, that costs $4,000, and we had a pad, I don't even know what a pad are, maybe it's a package unit or something, miscellaneous of $250, this, that, and the other. Okay, what this does is this will auto-populate. You go over here, it's going to add this in. By the way, do not overwrite on the orange, it's going to mess you up. But you do want to put in the light blue. What is your sales tax rate? What is your commission? What are your finance, or at least put a credit card rate in there, because you'll get a lot of that. And then we just come in and say, okay, I've got 1 day on this job. I've got 2 man days, because I have 2 men 1 day. It's a 1 day change out. I'm paying them by the hour. And so it will automatically calculate from the prior sheet. Now, we also have the ability to do task pay, or to do subcontractor if you just sub your work out, and it will adjust on the fly. But what we do is once it calculates, it will actually tell us our true overhead burden. This is not a GP calculation. This is an actual overhead assigned to that department that we have calculated, so we know it is right. And so when we see these companies out here that are trying to get 70% gross margin, and they're trying to get, I don't know, $16,000 to $19,000 for that system, by the way, they're probably pulling back. With this particular company, I mean, the overhead, when we actually analyzed it, was very low. And so if you're coming in, for example, let's say you're coming in more of a 50% GP, based on this particular scenario, let me actually make that a different color, and say you're wanting to come in at 11.7, it kind of gives you the scenario as to what that would look like. It would be about a 41% net profit. So let's say that you come in at 10.9. Well, not 10, 109, 1090. Oh, there we go. $10,900. And so this is a tremendous profit, by the way, but it lets you know how much wiggle room you have. Now, one of the things that you do have to look at are if you have, subcontractors like a crane or something like that. If you had a $1,000 rebate and your cost is $500, that's going to need to be built in there. If you have a sales commission, if your company needs this amount, you need to sell it for this amount, or your company advisor needs to sell it for this amount, right? And if you don't have these things, and the financing fee, by the way, that's just a credit card. They just put it on their card, and you may have that. If you're actually financing, you're going to want to come in and put that financing rate in there. 0.05 be at 5%. So we can see that it actually went up to $619 because even though it's approved at this amount, the financing company is going to send you a check less this amount, and then the first thing you have to do is pay your commission of this amount and take out the rebate for that amount in order to get the amount that you need. But as you can see, these numbers are huge. And so why is that? I mean, this is a standard company. Let's pull this back a little bit. Let's go to 100%. This 3.2 million, less than 30% overhead. We got 50% of that overhead allotted to the installation department, 40% over to the service. We've got the burden pay, we've got the production efficiency, we've calculated all this stuff. Same thing with the service department, which is green down here. This is what feeds those numbers. And so what you're paying your lead technician, what you're paying your helper, all that automatically calculates in there. And we go over, for example, in our service department, and we actually put their hourly rate, their workers' comp rate, all this stuff is calculated, vacation days, so that you understand what your true burden pay would be, in this case 33%, because we allow an extra 15% in there. But we walk you through this, and when you get it set up, all you do is come here, and you fill in your equipment over here, all your materials, name the job, and then come over and you look at the different scenarios. Because if our break even, and this is what we're looking at, is here, that's not what we use to sell. What we use to sell is the value of that system. So if your competition is in this range, then you need to be somewhere close to that. You don't want to be way down here at single digit net profit installing that for $7,300. It is a for-profit business, and you also need to be selling this enough to offset your downtime, because this is based on consistent revenues. Same thing on the service call. We come in here, we got a $100 part, maybe $50 worth of this, that, and the other. We got $155, and then we come in. We put a credit card rate in here. Sales tax, I believe we need to be at 8%. To stay consistent with the other one. We got a little bit of a contingency in there, as well as internal warranty. That's only 2% of the part, but you can calculate that. You can set that to whatever you need. But this is a 1 man hour. So the truck's on the job for an hour, a technician's on the job for an hour, and we're paying him by the hour, or task pay if you need to be. But we know what his overhead is based on this particular the company. And so if we need a break even of almost $500, and everybody seems to be charging in this range, your competition, maybe you'll come in at $750, and you'll enjoy a 35% net profit, if you can see this. And then obviously, if you want $750, your final price down here is actually going to have to include the financing fee. It needs to be built in somewhere, or however you build that in. But the point is that this is how it is done. So you need to be getting lean, number one. You need to be driving consistent sales. And so what this means is, being ranked on Google search for Google Business is being listed you're being put in a reactive position where you're just waiting on people to call, and you're going to have to get out and be proactive. So this means that you're going to have an advertising budget built into that. Will help you with that. And you need to be figuring out a way to proactively go after the right types of customers. And by the way, if you have customers that are complaining about money all the time, you're probably attracting the wrong part. So you need to know your numbers. Okay, and if you're just doing the GP markup, the divisor method, I'll show you how erroneous that is, what a mess it can be. Your overhead needs to be assigned to your labor, because that is the one constant, and that's what we do. You need to be perceived as high value. So how are you going to do that, right? We talk about that as well. You need to be perceived as stable and trustworthy. So on the one, you got your numbers, perceived as high value, you got your brand, and then trustworthy and stable, you've got your sales process. And these work together, and you're going to get the sales. But if you're going to get through this, I'm telling you, a lot of you aren't. A lot of these big companies are already dropping their shorts. They buy equipment way cheaper than you do. So you need to have a relationship with your supplier and start working some deals yourself. You're not too small. Know your numbers, know your customer avatar, which means you don't want every type of customer. There's a certain type you're going after. Because if you're going after, the people that just want the cheapest thing, you're not going to be very profitable, and you're going to lose work to people who don't even have a business. They just do this for the weekend, a little extra money, trying to make ends meet. You need to employ psychology. You need to be leading your team and not just dictating. This is a new time. We need to have our stuff together. We put the training together for you. If you're interested in the financing training, send me an email, hvacgreatness@gmail.com. That's hvacgreatness@gmail.com. And we're going to be doing another one here in March. These are live workshops. They're 3 days during 3 2-hour sessions during 1 week. We don't have the date and times yet. The first one went relatively well. We found some things that we can improve on, and so this one will be better than the last one. And the last one was pretty darn good. So P. Ramsey here, HVAC Greatness. Keep those trucks between the ditches. Be careful out there, and just understand it's time to be a business entrepreneur, not just somebody that's an independent waiting on work to come to you, because those days are over. It's time to be smart and run it like a business. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.